Okay. So as you can see here, you are all able to hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So as you can see here, this feature is, as you can see on your screen, it is a tool that is provided by Microsoft, and this is helping you to interact with a database and the server. Okay. So if I go back to the drawing board, if I want to, show you where is what. So here is the user, right? Like we, you and me, right? So user will interact with a server. Server will have the database. Database will have tables. Let me put this. Database will have tables, views, schema. We'll talk about this in detail later on in future sessions. Okay. But I'm just giving you a high level how the server is set up, how the kind of system is set up here. Okay. Okay. So a server will be an actual location. Okay. An actual computer which will have huge chunk of size. Okay. A huge chunk of you can say a hard disk. Okay. Which will be able to store kind of in terabytes, at least in terabytes, all the data that it is going to store through different databases. So it will be an actual computer, actual location. Okay. Database is something like it will have a structured way of storing the data. Okay. So there will be multiple databases on a server. It may be one or multiple databases. Database will have everything, like it will be something like this, right? So here if you see this icon or sign, this is the database and it is created or hosted on this server. Okay. So this is some server, and it is actually a remote computer name or computer number on which these databases or the file storages are actually happening. Okay. So this database eventually will have its own list of tables, its own activities. So let's say Amul has created one database, which an IT organization is managing, or Tata has created its own database, which the same IT organization is managing. So depends on what kind of data is stored, the databases will also differ. Okay. And it will be for separate purpose. There can be multiple databases created according to the needs and requirements of the users. Okay. So basically database will have its a table list, it will have views, it will have a lot of things, some items related to security of the tables and all that stuff. Okay. So basically this is how the structure is. So how we are connecting to all this, we are interacting with a tool called as SQL Server Management Studio. And this is a tool which is provided by Microsoft, because right now we are learning about Microsoft tool. So similarly for other organization, they will have their own tool. They will have their own interaction tool through which the SQL queries will be written and the databases can be interacted. Okay, they can be queried and the information can be put. Okay? So it's a Microsoft tool here. So that's why I'm using the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. Okay. So now whatever, how the way you will interact with the SQL language. Okay, you will interact with your SQL structured query language. So if I want to write something or interact something, I will have to create a new query on this database. If I click here new query, it will be asking us to write something here, right? You can write anything here. Okay? But if you see closely, it is not recognizing if you write anything, right? We are not if we are just writing anything, right? So we have to write some specific commands that is called as a SQL command. Okay, so let's say I want to use this database, for example. So I will just say use and I'll drag drop this database name. See, this is how in simple English words, this is set up, and that is why it is widely used. Okay, so in this, when I run this, I just say execute, it will start to use this AdventureWorks database. Okay, so it is connected to this server, it is connected to this database, and now I can write. If I want to pull some information from some table, if I double click on this tables list, it will show me a list of tables first. Okay. Initially, they will not be created. You will have to create it. So we will work on that in future sessions on how you can create it. Okay. Okay. So let's say there is a table called as something like human resource department. Okay. So I just want to see what is there here, what data is stored here. Okay. This is a table. So I'll just drag and drop this table. I'll say select star from this table. So star means select everything. Whatever is there, select everything from this table. Okay. So I'll say execute. So it will give me, oh, I think that's a blank table. Just let me. So it has some columns like department ID, name, group name, but there is no data. So let me just load something. Let me use something else. Let me use this. Okay. And this is on some another database, right? So let's start from city, but it is in AdventureWorks DW, right? So I'll put AdventureWorks DW. I'll run this. So if you see closely here, this is a table. This is the database. I'm using the database. I'm doing a query on, this is a SQL query. I'm running a query on city table, and it shows me, I'm doing a select star. So it pulls everything that is there in the city table. The table is nothing but a collection of rows and columns. Okay. It is stored in some specific format. Okay. So here the rows, there are 5 rows and 3 columns, right? So it says ID is 1, New York is a city, and the country is USA, like this. Okay. So table structure, if you want to understand more about the table, then how it is created and all. So I will just here, I'll try to show you the script table, create to new query. Is giving you a look and feel of the system. Okay, so don't worry if this is not making you sense completely how I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm just making you giving you a look and feel of how the data is even available. Okay, so if you see here, if I ran the create script, if I ran the if I wanted to see how is this table even created in the first place. Okay, so it is a standard query here which is saying that use this. So somebody has written this. Okay, somebody has written the script so that the table came into existence, and then somebody inserted the records into this table, into a blank table. That is why I am able to see the records here, else it will not be available by default. Okay, so inserting records or rows, you can say, and selecting from the table, they are all SQL commands. These are all SQL commands through which this activity is achieved. Okay, so if you see this table here closely, it is basically saying a create table script, and then somebody has entered the column as ID column. They are saying the data type should be integer. It means the only integer values should go into this column. So integer 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? And that is identity. So it will increment by 1. Okay, identity column is there. So they are basically defining the format, what should be stored into the city table. Okay, city column is varchar. It means that it is a character, and that is why you see characters like New York, New Delhi, London, Salt Lake, Noida, like that. Okay, so somebody has to define what is the name of the column, what is the data type of that column, how it should be behaving. Okay, what is the data type in this case is it's a character format. Okay, and that is how they are selecting the entire table. These are some of the other commands which appear by default, so I'll not go right now onto that details on. Okay. So this is how basically you will be interacting with your system, which through the SQL query. System is your database and it is on the server. Okay, so if you just open up a blank SSMS, it will provide you the option to connect to a database engine. So this is saying it is an SQL server. It is Microsoft's SQL server, and it is asking you to connect to a computer first, connect to a server. It will be mostly a remote server. If you are using your own, if you are using your own system and there is no remote server, then in that case, it will be your own computer that will be your server. Okay, so something like my PC or something will show. Okay, I don't have that, so I am using a server name. So there is somewhere a remote computer which is having this number or this name, and I'm connecting to that because I have access to that through a Windows authentication. And then I'm when I'm connecting it, it is showing up like this. See, I just click cancel, so because I have already connected to it. Okay? So it will show a list of all the databases and all that. Initially, when a new server will be connected, it will have nothing. So somebody will go and create all these databases. Okay, and then they will create tables, they'll create views, all that stuff. Okay, so any questions so far?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is how we are going to learn SQL. We will learn step by step what is a data definition language, like how we define something, like how we define a table, how we create a table, how we change the data of a table, not the structure of the table, the how we delete a table, how we remove records from table, how we rename a table. All this is called as a data definition language, which is related to structure of the data. And then selecting from the data, inserting records to data, updating those records, deleting some of the records, merging some of the records from other tables and all that stuff. They are called as manipulation language. Then something like a grant or a revoke is, these are separate commands where due to through which we are interacting with the database. We are able to define, interact, able to do whatever we want uh, on the database tables or database structure items. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think we can keep our session till today. This was a brief idea about for everybody to get a look and feel of why you should be using SQL, because it is widely used as a general structured query language by all the IT organizations, and to give a clear information, to store the data, relevant data, all that stuff into databases, and then it can be retrieved for creating reports. So it is a very important language for any IT background people to understand about databases, understand about interacting with huge chunk of data and all that stuff. Okay. Yeah, if there are no other questions, we can say that we can close the session, and let me know how you feel about this, and you have any questions, we can discuss about that right now. Okay. I'll stop the recording for our session. Okay.